Broadcasting Network confirms God's call and direction in their ministry. So please write or email to them today. And thank you for watching C Broadcasting.
Once a lost and homeless drug addict and now the director of the North Central Indiana Teen Challenge, Andy Collins joins us today to share his testimony and how he was found through the radical love of Jesus Christ. Good to have you with us today.
Thank you.
Now, you got quite a story. Grew up as a missionary kid.
That's
Mom
right.
and Dad were missionaries?
That's right. In Barcelona, Spain, 1985, at 6 years old, we flew across the ocean and settled in a little tiny town outside of Barcelona and continued on in there for the next 15 years of my life, off and on as an MK in Spain.
So in your early 20s, you came back to the United States?
Correct. In 2000, I came back after my mom actually was diagnosed with cancer in 1998 and passed away. Dad and I tried to go back to Spain and resume the ministry, and it was just, we were both so hurting, and I was making some horrible choices, and so I was forced to come back to the United States and begin a life here.
And your dad stayed in Europe?
My dad stayed. My dad actually resumed back. He stayed there for a little bit and then came back here, remarried, and then now is back in Europe again.
Yeah.
So.
Now, obviously a very difficult thing to lose a parent, to lose your mom especially.
Yes.
You wound up being homeless and a drug addict.
That's right.
How did that transpire, you know, growing up in an MK home, growing up on the mission field? What was it that led you kind of away and drew you down into those depths?
So, one of the major mistakes I made was to get angry at God. I was so bitter at, you know, I was looking at it though as though the Lord took my mom from me. And so I began to really not care about the Word, about the ways that I've been taught as a young child. And I began to make a lot of bad choices. No one ever plans on being a drug addict or homeless when they start out with their first sip of alcohol or, you know, use of drugs. But eventually it leads you down that path, and sin is never satisfied. And I found myself at the end of a long, horrible journey.
Yeah. Well, you know, we watched as the homegoing service about a month ago of Whitney Houston, who apparently died to a drug. Her death was related to drugs. And she would often say, though, during her lifetime, she would often say how she still felt God. She would keep her Bible. Even though she was doing drugs, she felt the presence of God. Was there a time in your life when you were going through drugs, when you were there in that homeless wherever place, that you felt God pulling you back in?
Absolutely. There's many times where the Lord would reveal His sustaining power to me. There's times where I knew that there's no way that I should have been alive, and He would speak to me. He would share with me, Andy, I'm keeping you, I'm keeping you. And He would reassure me that He would have plans for my life. There was a one time where He actually, he really became real to me at the deepest, darkest hour of my life. I was in a room in a basement somewhere, and I would have to drink so much alcohol just to be able to sleep at night. And He actually showed up in my room one night in power, and I just began to preach and began to speak the Word, and there was an overwhelming sense of His presence in the room, and He confirmed to me that He had plans for my life over and over and over again.
But yet He didn't take it away. He didn't. You had to walk out of that, didn't you?
That's right.
He didn't just take it away. And I think there are some people, Christians, who look at addicts and say, well, God can deliver you. But I think the word deliver has a different definition for people who are battling addiction.
Deliverance is conditional upon one's desire to be delivered, first and foremost. The Lord will never overpower you. That's one of the greatest gifts we have as Christians, is that we have a will involved in it, and He desires it for it to be our choice. And so deliverance is possible. I've been delivered, but it was after a long process.
Now, part of your story is that your dad actually came over from Dublin, Ireland to find his lost son.
That's right.
How did he know where to go? And, I mean, were you communicating with him and telling him what was going on in your life?
No. At that point, I was so down in the dumps, if you will, that I had really pushed my family away. All my family were Christian and saved at that point, and so they knew how I should be living as well. And so the fact that I was not living up to the calling was really embarrassing, actually. And so I really pushed my family away. I would only show up at times to see if I could get something from them or whatever. But the tough love is what they were showing to me at that time. And so I was really not welcome around the home. And so I had really distanced myself, and I distanced myself from all communication with my dad as well. And the Lord really began to speak to my dad and say, go find your son, go find your son. And so he finally flew across the ocean. And my brother-in-law also, or my brother also is a youth pastor in Michigan, and he flew down to Dallas as well to meet my dad. And they both set out to look for me. They rented a car and set out to look for me. And they had a somewhat of an idea of a general location, but really didn't know where to go. And
Oh, go on.
No, I said they had searched all day, and it was the end of the day. They hadn't come up. They hadn't found me yet, and they were about to go home. And they went to a store just to get some milk and to get some gas in the car as the last thing. And when they walked in to the 7-Eleven, I believe it was in Dallas, the Lord spoke to my dad, and one of my old friends just happened to be at the store at the same time. And so my dad walked up to him and asked if he knew Andrew Collins and where he was, and he said, yes, I do, and that was just an amazing story.
Wow.
Well, Andrew, you said that your family showed you tough love. What does that look like? Because there could be someone watching whose child or brother or sister is a drug addict, and they are the enabler. Meaning they keep giving them the money, they keep giving them a way into, a way to use drugs. So what does that tough love look like?
Tough love is honestly one of the most difficult things that we encounter in the recovery process. As the Director of Teen Challenge, one of the biggest issues that we have in helping students is their family, really. Their family means well, but like you said, they become enablers. And so tough love is just the ability to stand up and to look past the mess that a person might be in, and you look at the potential inside the person and you say, you know what, if I don't change my game plan, I'm going to enable my loved one to remain in this condition forever, possibly all the way to the grave. And so tough love says, enough's enough. Tough love says, I love you so much that you need to go wallow. And God often uses our circumstances to bring us back to Him. And so He uses the very thing that we choose to bring us back to Him. And so if family members keep stepping in the way, they really get in God's way of trying to bring that person back.
God's process.
Exactly.
Yeah, like the prodigal son.
Exactly, exactly.
Tell us a little bit about Teen Challenge, because now your dad found you, and it's a big story there. I wish we had a lot of time to go into it. But he got you enrolled in the Teen Challenge program down in Texas.
That's right.
That in your own life is a tremendous, provided a tremendous turnaround.
Absolutely. At first, I was put off. I was in my late 20s, and I'm thinking, Teen Challenge, what is this, My dad and I, we drove around Dallas looking for different programs, and we'd found a couple outpatient treatment, and I don't want to talk about any other program necessarily in their attempts, but I just needed something further. I needed something more. I needed 24/7 care, full-time accountability, and of course, I didn't realize that at the time, but that's exactly what I needed. And so Teen Challenge is it's a long-term recovery plan. It's a 12 to 15 month program typically, but where you walk through the doors, and it's different than any other program you could ever encounter. You're met with the love of God, and it's a long-term discipleship program. You find that recovery can take place over a short amount of time. Deliverance can happen instantly. It doesn't always happen. It's actually a very small percentage that do get delivered instantly, but instilling godly character in an individual takes a long process, takes a long period of time. So that's what Teen Challenge does.
Was there ever a time you thought you were going to have a relapse, or you're in it?
Absolutely. And honestly, if you look at studies, this is something that we don't preach or teach, obviously, but relapse is often a part of the recovery process.
Okay.
A lot of people have to go back and just one more time or something and experience the slippery slope and go, whoa, and then come back to the Lord. And so it's something that you never want anybody to actually have to go through, but it does happen. It does happen, yeah.
For folks that are watching today, and maybe they've got a loved one who's involved with, some kind of abuse, drug abuse, alcohol abuse, how can they connect with Teen Challenge? What kind of resources can they find there? where are these programs available?
Yeah, there's over 200 centers in the United States. There's over 1,000 worldwide, and so if you're watching anywhere in the United States, say not in the Michigan or Indiana region, you can go to our national website at teenchallengeusa.com, and that'll direct you to all the centers nationwide. If you are in this area, you can go to teenchallengehelp.com, and it'll refer you to links to North Central Indiana Teen Challenge.
And what kind of prerequisites are there to get someone enrolled? Obviously, that person's got to be wanting or willing to plug in and really make a change in their life.
That's correct.
Anything beyond that?
Yeah, just like the Lord doesn't just overpower us, you know, a person has to be willing. So that's the #1 prerequisite. They have to be a good fit, obviously, for Teen Challenge. And so there is an interview process. There's an application process. You know, we have our induction. And we ask you various questions, but it's really, the conditions, honestly, are to be broken and desire to change.
Yeah.
So.
Any statistics on the success of the program?
Absolutely. There's been many searches or studies that have been done. One of them was done in the late 90s, 1999, I believe, by Aaron Bicknese, I believe, PhD of Northwestern, and he did a study that showed that 86 to 87% success rate for those who actually graduated the Teen Challenge program.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
It's huge. Good.
Pretty amazing.
Well, thank you for joining us, Andy.
Thank you so much.
And I want to encourage our friends watching now, maybe you yourself or someone you know could really benefit from the Ministry of Teen Challenge. To connect with Andy Collins or to find out more about North Central Indiana Teen Challenge, you can visit the website. And the national one, really, let me give you that. It's teenchallengeusa.com. If you go to harvest-tv.com, that's our website, you'll find an easy way to get that information and an easy link back to the Teen Challenge website on our site on the show info in the menu bar. We've got a lot more coming up on Harvest today, including an up-to-the-minute live update from Brian Bush.